Hey everybody, it's Jesse, and I am practicing for my Google technical interview. So I thought I would practice with you all. So for a technical interview, you're supposed to, especially over the phone, you really have to communicate with your interviewer, let them know what you're thinking. It's not good to have long periods of silence. So I thought this would be good practice for me to talk to you all as I'm solving this. So I someone had suggested using Leakcode, and I think actually it was someone that works at Google. I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure it was. And so I signed up for an account for Leakcode. I figured it was worth it to pay the money to sign up. And I picked, so if you sign up for an account, you can pick questions that have been used at interviews for a specific company. So this particular question has been used at Google before on interviews. And I started out with an easy one. So hopefully this is large enough font for you to see. I'll make it a little bit bigger so y'all can check it out. I'll read it out. It's not that much, so I'll read it out in case you're listening and can't see this. So it's given a string containing just the characters, and it's basically parentheses and curly brackets and square brackets. Determine if the input string is valid. So if a string is valid, it has to meet two conditions to be valid. Open brackets must be closed by the same type of brackets, and open brackets must be closed in the correct order. It also says that an empty string is also considered valid. Okay, so initially my thoughts on this are, this seems like what we're looking for really is a string that would be the same forwards and backwards, right? And so this is similar to an algorithm on FreeCodeCamp. So they have those JavaScript algorithm challenges. So they had you look for words that were the same forward and back, which there's a word for that, and for some reason I can't remember what that word is right now. So if anybody remembers what that word is, let me know. And I don't know where my live chat is. Let me get the live chat out here so I can actually see if anybody is. There we are. Okay. Palindrome. That's it. Raunak, thank you. Palindrome. So I'm thinking, like, number one, I've already done something like this. It was a long time ago, so I don't really remember how I did it, but it gave me an idea to say, like, okay, we just need to check to make sure that it's the same forwards and backwards. So that then makes this pretty easy, right? Because we could, I don't know that there's an automatic way in JavaScript to reverse a string, but there is a way to reverse an array. I'm almost positive that's in the language now. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm just going to take the string, make it into an array, reverse it, see if they're equal, and if they're equal, then we're good. If they're not equal, then we're not good. Right? Let's see. This is oh, Raunak says, oh, what a good point. What a good point. Okay, so here's the point he's making, in case you can't see the chat right now. He's saying that you could have a valid string that's not the same forward and backwards, as long, like, let's, for instance, this is what he's giving. So, like, you could have something like this, and then something like this. So that's a really good point. That's a great point. I'm glad you pointed that out. I would hope that eventually when I started testing this, then maybe I would find this out. or maybe I would fail whatever tests are in this. But this is going to save a lot of time. Now we know that. So forget what I just said. That's not going to work. So let's think again. So then what we need to do Alright, so I'm thinking, alright, so if we see I'm thinking I'm going to do this. It almost seems a little bit backwards to me, but I think this will be okay. If we see a closing parenthesis, curly bracket, or square bracket, then we'll try to search through the previous part of the string to find the opening one. This is tough. This is tricky. Okay, so let's just try some pseudocode first. So if pseudocode is just, like, it doesn't have to be valid syntax. You're just kind of putting your thoughts out there to step through it, kind of think through the problem before you actually take the time to write the code. So if you do pseudocode first and think through it, you can usually save yourself a lot of time. Because if you start coding right away, you could spend a lot of time on figuring out the right syntax and not have the right answer and have to do it all over again, maybe even more than twice. So I'm just going to add this in some comment tags. So I guess this may not be the most efficient thing, but let's just try to figure out essentially tests that we could do to rule out things that aren't valid. So we could say, we could add up the number of opening brackets, and if that doesn't equal the number of closing brackets, we rule it out right off the bat. My thinking is, let's try to make enough rules to rule out any ones that are false, and then it should work, and then we can go back in and say, okay, is there any rules that we can actually take out so that there are less steps in this whole process? Okay, so that's my plan for right now. So we can say, so each one of these is going to be, it'll rule it out. So it'll be false if, let's say number, actually let's say this, length, length is an odd number. So we would say length modulo 2 does not equal 0, right? Does that make sense? So an even number, when we do modulo 2, that would give us the remainder in terms of division. So we should not have a remainder, right? But an odd number should give us a remainder. Okay, so that could be one thing to rule everything out. That right off the bat we know it can't be an odd number. And open brackets must be closed. Okay. the next thing we could say are number of open brackets has to equal number of closing brackets. Okay, now we need to make sure that the brackets match up. So this is the correct order one. This is the part that I think will be the most tricky. Actually, and since an empty string is also valid, let's just say this. We'll just say empty string returns true. So our first check will just be, is it empty? Then just skip everything and go to true. That way we don't have to worry about it. May not be the best way to do it right now, but at least that covers that case. I don't have to think about it anymore. So we could say all right, let's say we have a loop. All right, so here's what I'm thinking. So we create an array, and we can add to the, as we go through and find open brackets, we add those to the array. Or how about we skip that step? As we go through, and find an open bracket, we will add the closing equivalent to an array. And we'll keep adding the closing equivalent to the beginning of the array, so at position 0. Then, once we find a closing bracket as we loop through the string, we will check to see if it equals position 0 in the array. If it does, we will take that off of the array, and so now the next closing bracket becomes position 0. And so we check again. And if at any point the closing bracket that we found in the string and the bracket at position 0, if they don't equal each other, then it rules it out. So let me write this out before I forget. So loop through string, and obviously we'll probably make this string into an array first, but loop through string, and then let's create array of each closing bracket, and let's say compare to position 0 in array, and we can say if not equal we're at how am I adding all these conditions? Basically, must be equal. Okay, that should take care of it. So if anybody can find something wrong with this logic, let me know. Let's now step through this. Just thinking about it, we'll create a test string and we'll run it through the logic, see if it works before we go to code it. Okay, so let's just make some test cases up here, some test strings. So first we'll do the test case of just a string, right? Empty string. Now we'll do a test case that should fail. So let's go this, and we'll flip these two. Okay, and now we'll do a test case that should pass. So we'll just do that. Okay, so it should pass, fail, pass. And actually, let's do one more. Let's just take this, we'll copy and paste it, and then just take out one thing, right? And that, because we have a test for an odd number. So, alright, so case one, it's an empty string. Right here, we return true, wonderful. That one works. Case two, so it's not an empty string. Let's get the length. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Length is 5. So there would be a remainder of 1, so it would fail. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How did I end up with 2 5s? I did not mean for that to happen. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I didn't mean for that to be there. Alright, let's try this again. 1, 2, 3. So this is 4, so let's say this passes. Now, let's create our loop. Okay, so here's the array that we're going to have. So let's check. Position 1, we have an open bracket, so we're going to add the closing equivalent to the array. Position 2, I should say position 0, 1, we'll add this closing bracket to the array. This is so confusing with these. Let's add that. Okay, so this is an array with brackets. So then position 2, right, because we're counting from 0. So position 2 now is going to be, it's a closing bracket. So since it's closing, we go to the array to compare to the 0th number in the array, the 0th character. So we see here that, oops, I did that wrong. When we add to the array, we're always adding to the 0 position in the array. So that was my fault. Okay, so we always add to the 0 position of the array. So now when we compare this should match the 0 position, and it doesn't. It's not equal, so this fails. Alright, next one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5. It fails because of this rule, because it's not equal to 0 when we take length modulo 2. Alright, so this last one, let's empty this array, and position 0, we have that bracket, so now we put the closing equivalent there. Position 1, we have an opening bracket, and so now we need the closing equivalent, and we put that at position 0, and now we have another one, and that's a curly bracket. We put the curly bracket at position 0. So now at position, let's see, this is 0, 1, 2, 3. At position 3, we see the closing curly bracket. And so we have to compare it to the 0 position in the array. and it matches. So we remove this from the array, we loop one more time, and we see these match, so we remove that one more time. Okay, so the logic seems to work here. The only case that we didn't give it was, let's say we had at the end here, I don't know, something else, right? Some extra stuff. So we already got to that point. Once we got here, we would have had an empty array, and then we would add this. And so now when we get to this one, we check the 0 position and it's equal. So that should work no matter how long that string is. Okay, so now it's just a matter of coding it. So this first part should be just super easy because we're checking to see if, so what is this, S? Yeah. If S equals empty string, then we're going to return true. Okay. And so that's taken care of. And now let's say if s.length modulo 2 is not equal to 0. Is that how? Yeah, it's not equal to 0. Then we return false. Okay. Hey, Niki's here. Niki says, "Hey Jesse, what's up? This seems like a cool possibility to use dot reduce." Reduce. Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out because I have not used reduce in a really long time, so I don't even remember what it does. So I'm gonna check that out. Let's go to. We'll check it out now. See if it helps. JavaScript dot reduce. Reduce method executes a reducer function that you provide on each member of the array, resulting in a single output value. Alright, cool. Yeah, this looks promising. So let's write this next rule and then we'll go to that. So number of open brackets equals number of closing brackets. Alright, so how are we going to do this? We can do is there a built-in method that will tell us how many times a certain character occurs? Actually, this is a great page to have open because we're going to be manipulating arrays quite a bit. So let's see. Find method returns the value of the first element in an array that satisfies. Alright, how about find index? What about every? Every method tests whether all elements in the array pass the test implemented by the provided function. That's not it. Includes. Okay, so I don't know if there's something built in for it, but then we can always just loop over it. Nikki says, make the accumulator object. Each key is a type of bracket. Each key is the amount of times that you saw the bracket. You see, then increment the number by 1, then decrement the number by 1. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, cool. Nikki, that's a great idea. Alright. So, let me explain this. Niki's saying in the live chat that we make an object and each key, right, is a type of bracket. Okay, and then we also record the amount of times we saw that bracket. So if we see the opening bracket, we increment, and if we see the closing bracket, we decrement. So what we should get, actually, really, if we get anything other than 0 after it runs through everything, then it should be invalid. So this is even better test than what I originally said, because we're not only making sure that there are equal number of opening and closing brackets, but we're saying for each type of bracket, is there an equal number of brackets? So this is pretty cool. All right, cool. So Nikki says yep, which I'm hoping means that I get what he's saying, explaining it correctly. All right, so let's see. Alright, so let's go with make this a const, right? Yeah, I believe we can because we're just adding things. So const brackets equal, there we go. So we'll just make this for now, and we're gonna loop through. So let's go with, where's her, oh, S, split. And these are all together, right? Yeah, so we'll just split here. So this should make it into an array. I'm just going to call it array because it's weird. Alright, so now we have an array that should contain each one of these. Now we can just go through and say, did we do? Map creates another array, so I guess that's not 100% necessary. Oh wait, Ronak says, I think if you just do the last condition, all your constraints will be handled, and you won't need to iterate the string twice, which will be better time complexity. Yeah, I think you're right. That's what I was thinking would happen once we did them all, and we could go back and see like, oh, okay, well, actually, this one takes care of all these other ones. So let's see. Doing it like this was more for me to be able to get my thinking straight. Okay, but you are right. So I guess we could just skip to that last one and save time, which I think is a good idea because in a real interview, which I'm trying to emulate here, time matters. Your interviewer will not only look at did you get it right, how right did you get it, but how long did it take you to get there? And the interviewer will try to consider, like, how many other people have I given the same question to? How long did they take to get the right answer? Or did they even get the right answer? They'll probably also consider, like, how much help did they need, right? So time does matter. So let's skip that and just go right to this. Okay. So let's get rid of this. And really, this will be taken care of as well, right? So you can get rid of both of those. This probably still need that. Let's see how we're going to do that. Hold on a second. Let me grab this because this actually would work because we need. Alright, we'll keep that and we'll say brackets. Let's say closing brackets. So we're going to have two arrays. One is going to be our closing brackets, and the other is going to be our array made out of the string. Now I know you can change objects, like individual values, like in an object if it's a const, but I'm not sure if you can do it if it's an array. So I guess we'll find out when we run this, right? Let's get rid of that, and I'm going to move this up. Okay, so we have our two arrays, and now we need to go through the first array. I'm sorry, we need to go through the string, loop through each one. So I'm just going to do I guess I'll just do a for loop. This is probably a better way. Let's see what we could use. We could go back and check out this reduced. Well, I'm not sure that we need all the functionality of the reduce. Ronak says, I don't think you can change arrays after you declare the const. Okay. Let's just switch to let then. Oh. I was trying to use multiple cursors. Like I was in my editor. And on a Google technical interview, you are not allowed to use your own code editor. They will have you do it in Google Docs. So you won't have any completion or anything like that, not even syntax highlighting. Okay, so let's see what. Okay, so we switched this to let. What was I looking at? Oh, okay, now Niki's saying const is not reassignable, but it's mutable. You can change the array or the object. You can't change what specific thing it points to. Okay, so maybe we could have added things to the array. I don't know, but for sure let will let us do that. So I was looking over here just to see if we maybe should just use something else. I mean, I guess we could do function once for every array. We could do for each as long as does it have an iterator? Yeah. Index of the, oh yeah, I don't need an iterator, I need the index. Yeah, that'll work. Let's see. Oh, we got Albert saying, "What are we doing in this stream?" Oh, we're I'm practicing for my Google technical interviews. So I'm just on a website that gives you practice algorithm challenges, and so that's what we're doing right now. So I think we're going to do array dot for each, and we'll say for each bracket, since they're all brackets, and then we'll also just use I for whatever point we're at in here. And inside here, we'll say, okay, so we're going to have to say, this is going to be a little bit tricky. So what the exact bracket? So if, I almost want to use a switch statement for this. But I wonder, like, if I use a switch statement in a real interview, would that be... would that be bad? Because that's really what would be helpful here. Oh well, I'll see what that is. So we basically say if the bracket equals... Yeah, forget it. I'm going to do a switch. I just can never remember switch syntax. Now, I'm not 100% sure if I'm allowed to look stuff up like this in the Google interview. If not, I'm going to have problems because I'm constantly looking up syntax. Alright, so let's get rid of that and just give it a good old switch statement. Okay, so for the switch, we're going to say bracket. That's what we're passing in. And we're going to say case. No, it wanted to add. There we go. So that's our case there. And then here, we're going to have square bracket. And here, we're going to have a curly bracket. Okay, and then we're going to say if that's the case, then we're going to take closing brackets, and we need to use what, like pop or push or something like that. All right, let's see. Pop is going to remove the last element. No, I don't want to remove it. It's going to be shift, isn't it? Removes the first element. No, it must be unshift then. Unshift. Where's unshift? There you go. Unshift adds one more element to the beginning of the array and returns the new length of the array. Okay, that's what we need. Unshift. So we're going to closing brackets dot unshift, and we will add the closing one. So we're going to do the same thing for all of these. Oops. Okay, so that takes care of all of our opening brackets. Now, if we happen to have actually, should I have breaks in all of those places? Yeah, because for each thing, yeah, okay. Yeah, for each one of these, as soon as we check that, or as soon as we do that action, we move on to the next thing. Okay. Our default then could be. It doesn't really matter. We don't even need a default. Okay. So what we need though is a few more. Actually, I think we just need one more case. Now that I think about it. Actually, we can use our default. We can use the default, and we could save some time here. So our default then. So if we're at the default, then we know that we've run out. We've hit something that's not an opening bracket, right? So if it's not an opening bracket, then all we're going to check is bracket. We want bracket to equal if bracket equals first, let's say if bracket does not equal, what was that? Closing brackets 0. Then we're going to return false. Okay. Else, that means it did equal that, and in which case we're going to shift oops, that's not what I meant. Shift. And what shift should do is just remove the first thing. I'll double check that. Shift should just remove the first element from an array. Okay. Alright. Albert asked if I'm leaving my current job. Yes, I'm currently looking for employment elsewhere. So I have some good leads. I'm going to have a technical interview with Google, and I have several interviews lined up for the next 2 days. So, and I think there's like one other interview I might have next week. And I'm still waiting to hear back from a lot of places that I have applied to. Okay, let's get rid of some of this. And we don't need this either. Okay. I guess we didn't even need this part, huh? Okay. So we'll run this. I don't know what the test cases are, but maybe it's going to use these. Unexpected token. Where? Line 14. Is that not the right syntax? It is. Alright, so let's look before that and see what happened. For each. Did I use for each wrong? Oh, yeah. I did. Did I? For each function. Let's see how it's used. Yeah, I did. Can I use an arrow function with for each? Okay. Indentation's a little off, but I think that'll work now. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so with this input, we got undefined. So let's see what happens. Alright, so let's think. If we were to get that string, it should have passed this. Actually, no, we don't need. Oh yeah, it would have just skipped through that because it's not equal to that. And then for this one, it should have been split. Oh. Ronak says, you didn't return anything yet. The code editor just works on the result returned from the code editor. Okay. Let's see. Actually, yeah, you know what? I think I have a logic problem here. So if we would have got through here, it would have returned. It would have got through this. It would have done the shift, and then that would have been it. It's looped, right? So what needs to happen is if it actually gets through everything, then we need to return true. Okay. Right, so if the code ever were to get to this point, then it has to be true because it would have returned false at some point. Do we have every case? I'm worried about the case where we have an odd number and that this would keep passing and then it would stop running and it would still return true. Actually, let me bring this. It's too far to go back. I don't want to do all that. How about let's do this. Copy that, and I'm going to go all the way back here. So we bring back our length check. Okay, and then now I'll throw this back in here. Okay, and then that way we'll make sure that we take care of length issues. Okay. Oh, wait a second. Okay. Runx says, try with a simple for loop. The return true is working for the callback function of for each. I hope that helps. Okay, so yeah, so this still didn't work. Where am I messing this up? Yeah, we could just do a for loop. So we could go for let I equals 0 as long as I is less than array.length. We are going to increment I. Alright, let's see if that makes a difference. Runtime error, where do I have a syntax error? Line 33. Oops, don't need that. Bracket is not defined, line 17. Oops. Yeah, of course bracket's not defined because that's not what I need anymore. I need array, the iterator. Okay. And let's make sure I'm not using bracket. Yeah, so not bracket here either. So we want that position of the array. Okay. Input, output true, expected true. Okay, does that mean that I did it? I want to see what the test case was. What is the diff? Yeah, I want more. That's like a terrible test case, right? It's just. Alright, let's do lots of test cases. Alright, let's try some of those. Okay. It's not working for these ones. So these ones should have been false, and we didn't get false, we got true. Okay. So let's forget that. Is my return true always going? Alright, let's see what cases. So that test case. Let's console log. So here's our loop. Alright, let's console log the array, the closing bracket. At just console log closing brackets and see what we get. And it should log every time it loops, so we should see the change. Trying to run this code. Okay, so now we're back to getting interesting. Okay, that's really interesting. Okay, so we're getting the right answers for every case except this case. So why is it giving us that? Alright, let me walk through logically if we have the case. So, try this again. So our string, so this one passes that one up. it'll pass this one because it's actually, wait a second. No, it's not returning false, it's returning undefined, so that doesn't matter. So our array split should give us an array of length 2. And so if we start at 0, then that first value should be an opening parenthesis. Is it a paren? Is that what it's called? If it's just 1? I don't know. Let's say paren, because it's shorter. So we should have the opening paren, and that means closing brackets unshift will have this value, and then we break. And now we go back through, and the value would be a closing paren, so not this one, not this one, not this one. It goes to default if the array at this value, which is now 1, which would be that closing paren, does not equal closing brackets 0, then we return false. But it does equal, because we should have closing paren, else closing brackets shift, so that takes the bracket out. So now we have an empty array for closing brackets, and now we go back up here and we should be on I will now equal 2. The array length is 2, so it shouldn't run again. We should be done. Let's inspect this and see what our console is giving us. Console should be fine. What? Okay. Okay. Alright, Brownneck has it. We need to return true if the closing bracket array is empty at the end. Okay, so else closing bracket shift, and then we'll put a if closing brackets dot length equals 0, then we return true. We'll just do it like this. Will that work? Let's see. Unexpected return. So I can't put a return in there? Alright, I'll just go back to if. Outside the loop. Okay. All right. Okay, it looks like it works. I mean, it's entirely possible that I did not think up every possible test case in the few seconds that I thought up test cases, but that works. Now, at this point, depending on how much time I'd taken up in the interview, I could say, like, okay, here's my solution, but it'd probably be a better idea to look at it and say, it works. How could I do it better? So if I had time, I could actually go in and try to do it better, or I could just say, okay, if I had more time, here's what I would do, and just tell the interviewer what I would do. So let's just take a look at this and see if we can find any way that we could improve this. So I've been trying to study Big O notation, and I'm just going to attempt to figure out what the Big O notation would be for this. And I literally just started learning it 2 days ago, so I'm not confident. But stuff like this would just be O1. Right, because it doesn't matter how long the string is, right? This is always going to be the same. But when we get into things like this loop, then we're doing ON, because the length of the string, the number of characters in the string, will increase the amount of times that this has to run. So this is a linear. How do they say it? I can't remember how you put it, but basically, it's the amount of time, right, this function will take is directly proportional to the length of the string. Right, so if we had a string length of, say, 5, given as long as everything else is equal, a string length of 10 should take twice as long, right? And it doesn't look like there's anything else in here that would multiply that, right? So I'm saying basically our function right now is going to be O of n. So how can we do better than O of n? Well, O of 1 is obviously better, but I seriously doubt we'd be able to get that. What is it? O log n? I think that's what it is. O log n, I think, is better than ON, but I'm not exactly sure how we could get that in this case. Okay, so if anybody knows about Big O notation and can verify or correct me, please let me know. I'm going to keep studying it, but I'm pretty sure that's it. So I guess we could look. Because we're now checking to see if the closing bracket length is equal to 0, I think we can take this check out. So let's take this check out, or at least comment it out for now, and rerun this. See if it'll still work. True, false. Okay, no, it doesn't work. Okay, so that shouldn't have happened. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Why did that pass? Maybe I didn't catch that last time. Maybe this didn't work. Alright, let's see if we can console log. Let's see. closing bracket 0. So I want to see what this is all the time. Undefined. You know what's happening here? We add this, and then we take it away, which... No, that shouldn't work. So what I was thinking was we would then have this empty array, which should return true here, but it shouldn't. It should automatically loop back. Alright, let's think. Okay, let's say const is valid, and then instead of I don't think that'll fix it. I was going to try to save the result. Instead of just returning all these places, I was going to try to save the result to a variable. I don't think that'll do anything. Okay, let's look at this bug again and try to figure out why it's happening. I want to grab what that test case is. So it's this test case that's not working. Whoops. I guess I'll copy them all. Alright, so this one's not working. So let's go through here. This should do this, and it will add onto the array this. So now when we go through a second time, we're going to check. Let's get rid of this console. When we go through a second time, it's going to check to see if this is not equal to the closing bracket, and it is equal, so it's going to go down to else. That's going to shift the closing bracket, but then it should go through again, and when it goes through again, it's going to see this, which is going to cause it to add this guy to the closing bracket. Then it's going to see this, which will cause it to add a closing square bracket to the beginning of the array. So then when it gets to here, what's it going to do? When it gets to here, it's going to add another closing curly bracket to the beginning of the array. And then when it gets to here, it's going to go back, it's going to go all the way down to here, and it's going to check to see if this closing bracket is not equal to this one. If it's not equal to that one, it's going to return false. So it should return false. Alright, let's throw a console log in here and see what we're getting. Let's see what this is. Oops. Forgot to put parentheses around this. Okay, let's try it now. That's weird. We're only getting a console log of this, so that false only ran then. So for some reason, we're not even getting that one. All right, let's go to our custom test cases. I'm going to take out all of them except for this one. Let's run that. Runtime error. Okay, that's weird. So this test case is giving us a runtime error. What is happening? Okay. What did I do? All right, well, at this point, in the interview, I would honestly ask the interviewer for help and say, I'm stuck here, and I'm not sure what the problem is. I would need to spend more time debugging this, but I can't see it right now. I would probably ask them, would you like me to keep working on it or move on? Because it's important to let them know that you're not giving up. But if you spend too much time on this, you might not get to the next problem, which you could do really well on. So I think as long as you let them know that you're willing to work on it more and you're not going to give up on it, then I think it's okay to say, do you want me to move on? Do you want me to keep going? Because you've already shown them your logic, you know syntax, logic, everything like that. So at that point, that's what I would do. And I may have to just leave this because I have to leave now in a few minutes. I'm assuming that this auto saves it. Yeah. So hopefully that auto saves. But thank you all so much for watching and for your help in the chat. Hopefully this was somewhat helpful for you for preparing for interviews. It was definitely helpful for me. The more of these that I do, hopefully the faster I'll be able to come up with solutions. I won't be as nervous, and I'll get more used to explaining myself. And I'm hoping that I just get better with syntax. A lot of these questions are you're going to have to manipulate arrays. So just by making myself do these, I'm going to start to remember more syntax. Whereas, day to day, my coding, I don't always have to do things with arrays. Like, I don't even remember the last time I had to use shift and unshift. I probably never had to use shift and unshift before, right? So, okay. Yeah, so unfortunately I do have to go and I can't spend any more time on this right now. But I am definitely not going to give up on this problem. It's going to bother me until I find the answer. So the best thing for me to do, I think, at this point is just to leave it alone for a little bit and then look at it maybe like tomorrow with fresh eyes, and I might be able to see where I messed up. Okay, let's see. Nikki says, this is cool. I know it's distracting, but can I send you what I've got on Twitter? Already did because I'm excited. Tested it a bit. It works. Hooray. Alright, yeah, let me check Twitter. Oh, okay. Nikki has come up with a solution. Okay, that's really cool. It returns the object with the final tallies. Okay, cool. I like this. I'm going to have to look through here and check this out. And this is cool because I'm really not familiar with using reduce. So I'm going to look through that solution. So Nikki came up with a solution to this using reduce. So I'm going to check that out and learn more about reduce. And that'll definitely be helpful for me. If I come across this problem or a similar one, I'll have another tool to be able to use. Really cool. Thanks for sending that to me. Okay. Alright, well, I'll see y'all later. I want to try to keep doing these streams. Like, really, I should be practicing these questions every day. So if it's possible to stream when I practice these every day, I'm going to try to do that. It may not always be the best quality because I may be streaming from different places from my laptop. So I'll do my best to stream them. And if you're interested, come in and check it out. And I'm trying to find the button to end the stream now. Oh, this is different than my normal stream setup, so it's a different button. Alright, so thank you all so much. I'll be seeing you hopefully soon, and until then, have a great day.